This is a simultaneous review of Controller Chaos and Battle Beaver. Controller Chaos is a controller customization company that offers various controller customization options for a myriad of controllers, whether it's a DualShock 4, Xbox One controller, even I think GameCube controllers. I heard about them through their various sponsorships on many FGC tournaments back in the day, and I've always wanted to give them a shot. So I ended up doing that just a couple months ago. I wanted something clean and simple, so I just went with a blue controller with the normal buttons because I like having the actual option of keeping the symbols on the buttons. So I kept these the same. I kept the PlayStation button the same, and I just made the sticks, the D-pad, the touchpad, and the L1, L2, R1, and R2 buttons white against the blue controller shell. When I first received the stick, I was pretty underwhelmed by the quality. The thing that I noticed right off the bat was the fact that the actual thumbsticks were a completely different shade of white from the buttons. These buttons are more of like a pure kind of matte finish, but the sticks have almost like a yellowish hue to them, and it's really off-putting. I understand the translucency of the touchpad. That makes perfect sense to me. I have no issues with that. But overall, for the amount that I paid for this, I was a little bit underwhelmed. But I figured as long as the controller works, then we should be fine. In using the controller, I realized the D-pad just fell off. Whether it was just, I don't know if it was a parts issue, the part that they used was faulty, doesn't seem to be, or if it was a manufacturing issue. When they put it together, they screwed something up, but the D-pad didn't work properly. Every time I played a game with this controller, I had to play something where I wasn't using the D-pad very much, and especially not for precise inputs. And the reason why is because it takes the issue that everyone has with the DualShock 4 and it amplifies it by like 10. The main issue people have with the DualShock 4 is their D-pad is one piece. It's one solid piece. And this is actually the D-pad that came with this controller. I already went through the installation of the Battle Beaver Customs D-pad here, and I'll get to that in a second. But the main issue, and actually, I don't know, it looks like it's fine, so I think it was just a manufacturing issue. But the main issue with the D-pad controller is that it's all one piece, and that means if you're inputting one direction here, what happens is you could get inputs for other directions based on how you press the actual button. Whereas the Battle Beaver customized D-pad is 4 separate pieces. I bought 2 of them here just in case this worked out. I'm going to install it in my other DualShock controller. And spoiler alert, the D-pad is awesome from Battle Beaver, but the Controller Chaos controller that I got took that issue, and again, it amplified it by about 10. I couldn't even scroll through like Netflix or YouTube without getting extra inputs that weren't supposed to be there. I would just be scrolling right, and I would get down inputs constantly. And if I compensated enough to stop getting down inputs, I would start getting up inputs. It was insane, and it made the controller unusable. But I figured, all right, let's contact customer service. Seems like there isn't any for Controller Chaos. Every time I called them, I would be on hold forever. I never got a hold of anybody who could help me. I've emailed them 3 times and never got an answer. Not once. That's when I decided, essentially, I'm just going to take it upon myself to fix it.
Today I'd like to discuss right to repair.
So I did my research, found out about Battle Beaver, and I ordered a couple sets of their D-pads. And I've got to say, this is pretty awesome. And I'm really glad that I actually took the jump to repair this myself, and the fact that I was even able to.
Right to repair.
But I would highly suggest getting these D-pads. This is excellent. And that's what the crux of this video is about. I get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only do I get to fix the regular D-pad issue that the DualShock has been plagued with since the beginning of time, but I also get to fix my faulty controller that Controller Chaos wasn't able to. Let's just get into the installation. So right off the bat, what I want to actually say is the Battle Beaver D-pad is fantastic. I love it. I would absolutely recommend it. Even the process of taking the controller apart, putting it back together was a bit of a pain in the ass, and that's not anyone's fault other than people who built the controller, but it's not meant to be taken apart. You do that at your own discretion, and I was willing to do it. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Everything, other than the ribbon cables, those were a huge pain in the ass. But outside of those, the process for this was actually pretty great. And the end result is incredible. I absolutely love this. I'm going to do it with my other DualShock 4. When I use the normal DualShock to play Tekken, which is rare, but if I ever do, for instance, if I'm playing Brian Fury, and I have to run up and do a back 3 into a crouch dash and finish the combo after the corkscrew maneuver. Sometimes, a lot of the time actually, I get a jump back 3, and then my combo completely drops. And it's completely controller related. It's completely PS4 DualShock D-pad related. It doesn't happen when I play on an arcade stick. It doesn't happen when I play on a keyboard. And it will not happen if I decide to play with this controller. That's pretty awesome. Now, the main issue is the fact that I even felt compelled to fix this D-pad in the first place. I can't really say why my experience with Controller Chaos was what it was when it came to this controller, why I couldn't get a hold of them at all, and why they only have a 30-day span. I mean, I can get that. They don't want someone to use the controller for a year and have normal wear and tear on the controller and then say, oh, you guys got to fix this. It's bullshit. But they can give a little bit more than 30 days. They can give a bit more of a guarantee. And I think their customer service should actually be there. It's kind of ridiculous. Could not get a hold of anybody, and what was annoying was the fact that I even felt compelled to do the research on how to fix the D-pad in the first place. This thing was unusable. It took the issue that people have with the normal DualShock 4 D-pad in the first place and amplified it by 10. That was really annoying. I couldn't use it unless I used the sticks. If I were playing a game where I needed to use the D-pad, I couldn't use this controller. But I've been using it, and the new D-pad from Battle Beaver is fantastic. I think it's a great product. It's not even that expensive. So as far as Controller Chaos, I wouldn't really recommend them in the first place because quality control doesn't seem to be a thing. Customer service doesn't seem to exist. But even beyond that, the way that the controller turned out in the first place, I wasn't really happy with it. The shade of white on the sticks in comparison to the buttons didn't really match. It looks a little bit disjointed. This little piece of plastic right here, shouldn't that also be blue? I don't know. Forgetting just a blue controller with white buttons and white sticks and a white pad right here, I don't feel like it should be close to $100 for that. Honestly, I should have just purchased a $50 blue DualShock controller from Sony, or even a used one, and then just purchased the buttons and the stick replacements myself. It probably would have been way cheaper, and I would have just put it together myself. I know it's parts and labor, shipping, everything like that, but it just didn't feel like I got my money's worth. I paid more for a customized controller from Microsoft's service for their Xbox One. Actually, 2 of them. And they turned out fantastic. I know that you're dealing with professional, it's Microsoft. It's a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Of course, if they're going to put a product out there, they're going to make sure it's quality. But shouldn't every company do that? It feels like even if the D-pad worked, I was really underwhelmed with the way that this controller turned out. So I wouldn't really recommend it. But if you've had a fantastic experience with them in the past, that's totally fine. I just didn't. And what made it even worse was the condition that the controller was delivered in the first place. And then what made it even worse than that was the fact that there was no customer service for me whenever I needed it. I don't know about Battle Beaver's customer service. If you've had any sort of experience with their customer service, please let me know how it was. As far as my experience goes, the product is great. It was honestly very easy to install. I'll actually link in the description their video walkthrough of how to do this. I sped mine up just as a kind of showcase, I guess, of what I went through to do it, and to show that it really isn't that hard. As long as you have a screwdriver and you're really careful and you know what you're supposed to do and where everything goes, you're good. So I would recommend switching the D-pad. I would absolutely recommend doing it. If you don't want to do it yourself on an existing controller, you can just buy a customized controller from them. They actually have a whole process on their site for being able to do that, just like Controller Chaos does. Definitely check them out. I do appreciate y'all for watching, and until the next one, take care of yourselves.